You know, some children's childhood are all sunshine and rainbows. Well, that wasn't mine. I was born into a drug abusive home. My dad, he was only 17. Mom was only 17. So just not the best situation for, a kid to be born into. And so ended up going to foster care system. Long story short, the foster care system was also abusive. We don't know how exactly, but my arm got hurt in that situation. And ever since then, my growth plate has been damaged in my arm, and it never was able to go straight.
So we have, Sean and I been married, and then we have 4 children. Nate is our oldest, and then our son Jake is a sophomore, Nate's a junior. We have Jake as a sophomore, and then we have 2 girls, a second grader and a kindergartner.
You know, in elementary school, it didn't really matter, because I just felt like any other kid. I just ran and played like any other kid. But I hit middle school, and that's when I realized I was kind of different than the other kids. My arm, when I shot a basketball, I had to shoot to the left because my arm wouldn't straighten up enough to shoot forward straight. I could never throw a football. Baseball was hard.
Even as he was learning to write, we went to occupational therapy, probably for a good year. I'm thinking 2nd or 3rd grade, I can't remember. His wrist has always been super weak.
I hit about freshman year of high school, and that's when I experienced my major spiritual high, I call it, because it was just the moment where I reached my peak in my relationship with God. But then I crashed. Just got into some terrible stuff. Depression and anxiety both took over my life. And just got to a low point. I was even ready to deny God at the moment before World Mandate, and that's where World Mandate caught me. My best friend, man, he got me to that conference. Just seeing him sold out for Jesus, I'm like, okay, I'll give this a try, because everything else was going wrong in my life. So why not give this a try? Just really sold out for Jesus as much as I could that weekend, said yes as many times as I could. I'd been praying to God, I'm like, because he'd been calling me to ministry for a long time. I just didn't feel like that was my calling anymore before World Mandate. I go to the front and I'm laying on my face and I'm like, God, if this really is the calling on my life and you want me to go into ministry, then you're gonna have to prove it. And until you do, I'm not getting up. Of course, God, he just answered. He's like, all right, Nate, you want me to affirm your calling on your life, stand up. So I did. At that moment, Pastor Anderson comes up and he's like, there's been healings all over the Antioch churches, and we think there's going to be a healing here. And it was at that moment that 2 people came up to me, and they're like, hey, you don't happen to have problems with your arm, do you? And immediately I was taken back by shock. I'm like, yeah, I do have problems with my arm ever since I was a little kid. And they're like, well, we're going to pray over it, and we're going to ask God for healing. Sure enough, that's what they did. And they prayed over it, and immediately I feel my arm straighten out. And they're like, did that do anything? And I'm like, yeah, it did something. My arm has never been this straight before. And they're like, well, we're going to pray over it again. And I'm like, go for it. So at this point, I'm like, anything can happen. And they pray for it, and I kid you not, my arm grows, and that growth plate that was damaged is no longer damaged. Both my arms are the same size, both my hands are the same size. It is crazy.
You couldn't move. That's my elbows, my hands, my shoulders.
After sharing the testimony with my parents, I just couldn't stop talking about Jesus. I'm pretty sure me and my mom's discussion lasted for a good hour, 2 hours, and I was just talking about not only that Jesus had healed my arm, but that he had healed my heart. And it was just really cool to explain to and show them firsthand, because they had known There are people that had actually seen all the defects in my arm, and them seeing it different just changed them.
There was one way he described his heart to us when he came home, was he said, Mom, you know those pictures when we're kids and they show you about smokers' lungs? He said, and their lungs are all black. He said, that's how my heart felt. He said, and now that's just gone. I can't even explain it to you. It's just gone.
Or how I felt personally when Nate said his arm was healed was, I have to admit, I wanted to believe, but I was very skeptical at first. Just Nate came home, he showed me, and I was like, okay, you know, that's cool. And then, but what I noticed the most was his heart, and his heart had been changed. I mean, as a parent, it was hard seeing those dark days with him. It was hard to see him hurting, but once we noticed his heart was healed, I mean, it was just amazing to us.
You know, when your kids struggle, you struggle, right? As parents, that's what we do. You carry their burdens. And when you have a kid struggle the way Nate has struggled, your heart just breaks. Just breaks. We've been doing a lot of the right things, therapy, medication, learning tons about trauma. We had no idea how the brain remembers trauma. We had no idea. So we were working with those types of things, and we were putting all these, all the salve, right, on him, on his wounds. It's like this was the final piece to the puzzle. This was the final piece, like God's handprint, just like, okay.
And another thing is when you have a child and they're hurting so bad and you can't do anything for them, one thing, you start to question your own self. And as a parent or as a husband, I felt like I failed as a father. I felt like I failed as a husband. I felt like I failed as the leader of the house. And but thankfully there were people during that time who spoke truth and spoke God's word into our lives. And that helped us through that. What I would tell people about Jesus is don't give up on Jesus. Don't give up on God, because he's not going to give up on you.
Never quit praying, even when you don't see the answers. God is going to answer in his own way and in his own time, and it's probably going to blow you away when he answers.
Don't try to be God over God. Don't tell God what he can and cannot do. We put God in this little box and say this is what he is and isn't. Our God is all powerful. He can do anything, and he will do it in his timing. He's God over your situation. You're not. I think so many times in our lives we try to be the God of our own lives. And God's just like, what are you doing? That's my job. All right? And he's going to be God over your life. And you just need to let go. Let go of your control. Let go of your anxiety, your fear. And just trust God. Let God be God.